Here are 5 basic skills I believe every startup founder should have. Let's get into it. Hey there, my name is Tiffany Allen. I help people start their nonprofits and raise money for their new nonprofits. If you need help raising money for your new nonprofit, go ahead and comment "I want to join" below, because I have a private membership where you can get help, and we do weekly calls to help keep you accountable toward reaching your fundraising goals. So in this video, I just want to share 5 basic skills I believe startup nonprofit founders need to have. And if you don't have these skills or they need to be developed, these are the things you should be focusing on as you start your nonprofit. Now, these are not all the skills. These are just the 5 that came to mind as I started to plan this video. The first one is public speaking. Ooh, this is a big one because some people like to be in the background. They don't want to say the things. They just want to let their work speak for themselves. But the one thing you got to remember is you're starting something new. So nobody knows about you in the beginning. So it's up to you to be the face of the organization and push the organization. Now, your board absolutely can assist you with that, but as a founder, and I'm assuming you would be the board chair and then eventually the executive director, that is a key part of the role, is to raise the visibility of the organization. That means you got to show up in places and open your mouth and talk about where you're from, what you do, and why it's so important that you're doing what you're doing. So you got to get comfortable with public speaking, and that may look different. So it may look like you testifying somewhere. That may be later down the line, right? Testifying at a public hearing or something like that. That may be doing a presentation at a local church or at the Lions Club to talk about the work that you're doing. It may mean being a guest panelist on a webinar to share information about something you gathered in your work. It could mean going live on your social media. So I'm smiling because I push my private community, the APP Society, to go live, and people are so nervous about it, but it may look like you going live on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram to talk about the work that you do. You have to get comfortable with it. And I know for some people, they'll never get comfortable with public speaking, but you have to be okay with the fact that you have to get it done. And one thing that I like to focus on when I do speaking, because at the start of my career, I was terrified to do speaking. I was terrified to present on webinars. But the thing that has helped me is I follow my guidelines, right? I know what I want to say and I stick to that. And I usually do like 3 points. And if I stick to those 3 points, I start with a compelling start, something that's going to grab people's attention or make them laugh, make them understand my perspective better. Then I go over my 3 points and then I follow up, and at the end do some kind of call to action or something to get people to move. If you follow that basic outline and then use it over and over again, that's helpful in your speaking process. But I'm going to be honest, you're not going to get comfortable doing it unless you do it. So build that muscle and just push yourself to do more speaking and get used to talking about your organization. The second thing is basic computer skills. Now, remember, I said basic skills when I was talking about this video. So there are some people who are just not comfortable with the online thing. And I find, and this is no shade actually, but I find that with older generations, they're less comfortable because they didn't come out the womb with this stuff already existing. So there is a learning curve with setting up emails and setting up email marketing and learning how to navigate, the business account and your social media. That's not intuitive. And I find that a lot of people who are 40 and up, you tell me if you agree with this, they understand social media, but they don't like it and they're typically not on it. Or they have a profile for a specific reason, to see pictures of people or to catch up with people professionally. But beyond that, they don't really actively post. So as a nonprofit founder, you got to get comfortable with just being online. And I'm saying computer skills, but I'm also lumping in like using your phone, just being able to navigate digitally. How about let's just say that, right? You got to be comfortable with email. You got to be comfortable with some kind of system to track documents, because you're going to have to save documents and create documents like grant proposals or your policies, your bylaws, and you got to save that in a place that people have access to. You got to get comfortable with that. I use, Google Drive and Google Docs because a lot of people don't use Microsoft Word anymore or Excel because they don't want to pay for the software anymore, and Google Docs is free. But you can use other services too, but you won't know about those services unless you get comfortable with the computer, unless you get comfortable with navigating the internet. The thing I'll say about social media is that you don't necessarily have to be incredibly active on social media to be successful. But in my opinion, you need social media, especially when you are new. It's something that you should leverage because it's free. If no other reason, there's no other reason to use it, it's because it's free, and it helps to amplify your message, and it helps to accelerate your growth because you can access way more people from literally your house than you ever could from going out and speaking and meeting people in person. So have a basic command of the computer and be able to embrace using email, doing, digital marketing, understanding how to navigate social media in the back end of it. That's the kind of skill you're going to have to grow and develop as a nonprofit founder. And let's be honest, eventually you can pay people to do some of the things you're uncomfortable with, but when you don't have the money to pay people, you got to get some level of comfort to be able to maintain until you get there. The third skill is people skills. So what I mean by this is your ability to connect to people one-on-one. And this matters especially with your board, but this also could matter with donors and funders or your staff, volunteers, your clients, or your participants. But let's start with the board, because that by far is one of the most important first set of people you got to learn how to engage with. So when I say people skills, I just mean really listening, hearing people and seeing people for who they are and seeing and understanding where they are and being able to adjust and engage with them in a way that is productive. Because you're going to come across different personalities, different perspectives, and in order to navigate those things, it helps to understand where those people are coming from. And it helps to have relationships with them, because when you have relationships with people, the hard conversations you need to have are a little bit easier. When you're in the rhythm of talking to people or in the rhythm of engaging and asking questions and going back and forth with each other, it's easier to introduce hard things like confronting people when they haven't done what they're supposed to do, or having a tough question that you have to answer, or a complicated problem that you all need to work through on the board. When you have those individual relationships with people and there's a common and mutual understanding and respect that's been built, it's easier to tackle those hard conversations or complex issues when that's there. But it's the same when it comes to like your donors and your funders. Seeing people for who they are, listening, asking questions, providing value to those people, like doing that basic stuff and having genuine conversations with people, asking them how they are and genuinely caring, following up with those people, actually incorporating the things they say, taking their feedback, right? Actually just caring. That's just the basic thing, listening and caring. That's what I mean with people skills. That will take you a long way when it comes to engaging with your board, when it comes to fundraising, when it comes to running effectively and having a staff and volunteers, and when it comes to the quality of your services. When you're able to listen to the people who are receiving your services, incorporate the feedback, build genuine relationships with them, then your services will be that much better. This fourth one is reading comprehension. And this is not shade to anybody. This is just real. And I'm just going to be honest. Some people don't like to read. Some people don't like to sit down and process information. Some people are action takers. Some people are doers. They don't have time to sit and read and try to break things down because the work got to be done. So this isn't shade. This is actually just me being real. So a part of starting your nonprofit is understanding the administrative rules and the laws that govern your nonprofit. And you have to go by state law and federal law. There are different levels to this. You got to understand what it means to incorporate your nonprofit and what's the difference between a stock corporation or a non-stock corporation, or however they refer to it in your state. You got to be able to look at your state law, because most states have in law how nonprofits are supposed to operate. So they'll typically have things like, this is the minimum number of board members required, and these are the offices that may be required, and this is the number of people that are required to have a vote, and this is how long people can serve. Most states will have like a nonprofit code or nonprofit law that speaks to that, and it is to your advantage to know that and to read it. You don't want to be out here clueless or ignorant about the rules that govern your nonprofit. You got to be able to read your bylaws. You're going to get a template for your bylaws, and there's going to be dense information in there. So you got to be able to read and process and be able to go through that. Now, I'm just be honest, you may comprehend at some level, but still need somebody to interpret that. And okay, I get that. But you at least at a basic level got to be able to read and try to follow the things like your bylaws and policies and state law. The other piece of this is the IRS. So it's so funny to me that a lot of people ask questions about the IRS when a lot of the information is really on their website. So you will be surprised by how much guidance that they have developed and how much language is on the IRS website, specifically around nonprofits. Now, there's still some stuff in there because of how it's written that is confusing, but there is still some good stuff on the IRS website, and there's training and there's videos and guides, all kinds of stuff that break down the questions that you have every single day. So you got to be open to being able to read and dissect and understand, because this matters. Let me tell you one practical example before I go to the last point. When you're applying for 501c3 status and you're using the 1023 easy form, there's a little section in there that talks about, where your money is coming from. And there's a reference to a private foundation, and you default into a private foundation if you answer something a certain way. Well, if you're not really understanding what you're reading, you can make a really, really bad mistake, a costly mistake. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out this video I'm linking above where I talk about that mistake. It's the number one mistake people make when filling out their application. But again, this is why I'm saying you got to be able to have those comprehension skills. You got to be able to slow down and read, because you can do certain things that have costly implications. And finally, the last skill is meeting facilitation. And I'm specifically talking about with your board members, but this can matter for anything, anybody that you're gathering, like eventually when you get staff or when you get volunteers. Here's a thing you may not realize if you haven't really been in a corporate space or haven't been in a position where this matters. It takes time and preparation to have a good meeting. So it takes more than just writing up a quick agenda to have a good and productive meeting. I have been a part of consultant teams where we literally spend 5, 6, 7 hours going through in painstaking detail how to structure a meeting, how to prepare for the meeting, what materials are needed, how are we going to time it, who are the people in the room, and how should we adjust based on the information we need to present. It takes skill and intention to have a good meeting. So I want you to think about like how you design your meetings, how you approach your meetings, and what are the products of your meetings. If you are a part of meetings for your board where nobody's really talking, nobody's really providing any kind of insight, then that's a signal to you that you may need to restructure and reframe how you look at your meetings. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I'll give you is that you shouldn't be doing all the talking as the founder or if you're the board chair in that meeting. So that's one big piece of advice. And I did a video a long time ago. It is a hidden gem. YouTube was hating on me. No, really. But I did a video a while ago about how to have effective meetings. So I'm going to link that video above so you can watch it because it is old. But it's just good information and advice about how to have good meetings. The other thing that you want to think about is starting with a high moment. Sometimes people call this mission moments, where they'll do something like tell a story or remind people about the mission and why they're there. Because people need to be connected to the human side of your work instead of just bogged down by the idea of doing policies and by the idea of looking at paperwork. They need to be excited when it comes to the meetings. They need to be energized. So you need to think about those moments in your meeting where you can do that. right? The pivotal moments are the beginning and the end. How are you going to end your meeting? How are you going to launch it, right? And one good way to launch a meeting is to have that mission moment, or to even have like an icebreaker or a starting question where people go around the room and they contribute or answer a question, right? So I want you to think about your meeting facilitation skills and how they can be improved so you can have more effective and productive meetings. Are there other skills you think nonprofit founders should have? Clearly, I didn't talk about all of them. There are things like marketing and just communication generally. Like, there are obviously other things you need to have, but I just wanted to do 5 for this video. So if there are other skills you feel like I should be talking about, drop in the comments below. If you need help with your nonprofit, you can visit me at bossonabudget.com. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.